How's it? Sword fighting. Now, I think some of you might have a different meaning for that. However, I mean battling it out with absolute grand swords, you know, medieval things. Obviously, my chest is a weapon, hence chest day today, and naturally, the pump was barbaric. But it's not Viking times, it's not ancient times, no need to use my body as a weapon anymore. However, if I were to, safe to say, people would be getting hurt. The cuts on my chest, destroying people, the striations, sending people shivering. Absolutely barbaric physique I experienced today with myself. Now, if we were in the days where we had to actually fight, naturally, I would be a swordsman. Now, there are many arguments towards multiple different varieties of weapons one might use in their arsenal. Now, before you go, oh, I'll use a gun, shut your mouth. We're not in the modern age. We are in the medieval age, and no, you don't have a teleporter, so you couldn't have come back in time. So, with that in mind, we can think of the varieties. What do we have? We have swords. Long swords, pretty rad. Samurais, absolutely dope. Daggers, pretty meh. Now, you can also go for the distance approach, more of a bow and arrow type of dude or girl, or a little bit of spear throwing, javelining, if you will. Now, I always thought that might be a bit cowardly, however, quite cool if you think of it from a safety perspective. Then you can get a bit more technical, throwing stars, darts, what's the other one? Those ones, the ones they use, it's like a little dagger. Throwing daggers, axes, then projectiles. No, those were the projectiles. You can combine projectiles with pointy long things as well, such as the net and spear approach, which I've had numerous the conversation about, and I think might just be the most deadly of all the combinations in the medieval arsenals. Spear and net, chain net, not net. Hear me out. Now, naturally, you'd have to have quite the biceps, back movement to throw the chain net over your opponent. However, if you were to do so, obviously they are immobile. They can no longer move, which is probably the best possible way to, you know, poke someone out. Now, spear, brilliant in the regard that distance, so regardless if you get the net, you can still poke them away. You think someone's gonna charge at you when you have a spear pointed at their gut? Nuh-uh, not today. Your sword and shield, okay, that could be a snag if they have a shield, but it could be said that the chain mail, or rather chain net, could be considered a form of shield if you used it correctly. Now, I'm not saying it's the most effective, and I'm definitely not saying it's the coolest, because that has to be given to your boy, the samurai. I think that could be partially influenced due to movies I watch, and, you know, a small bit of Japanese influence on my mind. However, being a samurai would be the ultimate cool dude thing. Now, obviously a samurai would be cool in the sense of, you know, just in clothes, walking around, samurai slice. I'm not saying 3 swords, because 3 swords, although it may be cool in the movies and series, I do not see it being particularly practical in day-to-day life. 3 swords may be a bit more of a snag to use than you may think. I know I have quite the jawline, however, I do not believe that translates to biting onto a sword and whipping my neck around like a stray dog to, you know, slice someone up. Props to Zoro, absolute guy that he can do that though. Now, if I was to be a samurai, I'm thinking more so samurai, bow and arrow on the back, the full Shazam armor, face mask, like teepee hat thing. It's not a teepee, but you know what I mean. It's like slatted armor, obviously your samurai, and then I feel like you have your smaller samurai in case of capture, which we shan't get into, but if you know, you know. So obviously the ideal and perfect soldier in this sense would be the samurai, because they've got the distance, right, with their bow and arrow. Then they've got the close combat with their samurai, two-handed sword, may I add, which is bloody brilliant. And then your little dagger, if you care to get a little bit cheeky, when it gets close quarters, maybe it's a bit of a scramble on the ground and you want to take your man out. You're not going to be able to do that with your long samurai, nor your bow and arrow. I mean, maybe that in today's age, a projectile would be ideal in close combat. However, not so much in the olden days, I suspect. And imagine how terrifying it is. You're walking through the night on your horse. So you're not walking, you're riding through the night on your horse through meadows. You know, sun, no, moon's out, stars glistening. You know, you've got your British shield with the Union Jack on it and your obnoxiously silver helmet, boots made of leather, horse poorly kept, and you see a glimmer of another figure on a horse riding past, pure darkness, shadow, boom, goes by you. What was that, you think? Could have been a small bit of imagination. Nah, completely wrong you are, my friend. You just got shot at by a samurai. You couldn't even see him. It's like a ghost in the night. Imagine that, a ghost in the night and you're trying to fight it. That's awful. That's the worst possible thing. Also, something about it brings up the thought that they would more than likely be incredibly skilled. More skilled than the average soldier. Now, if I'm not mistaken, a samurai was more than an average soldier. However, imagine an army of samurais. And that brings to the point of what was more than an average soldier in like a British army. Was that just because they were the foot soldiers? They were the boys with the drums and trumpets who always got shot and stabbed first because, you know, aim for the most noisy one. That would be my motto, at least in those situations. And then who's above that? The people with long swords, I'd assume. Knights. That's who it is. It's knights. Now, let me think about this. I think knight is donezo against a Japanese samurai. Why, you may ask? A knight, chunky, clunky, noisy. They fall over, they're pretty much dead. Like, if you didn't know, when a knight got in their armor, they were pretty much instantly informed that if you fell over, you were unable to get back up due to the weight and just general, you know, inconvenience of the movement of armor. So people would just poke at you until you were donezo and more than likely drowning in mud, because that was England and the weather there is awful and muddy. Now, samurai, they've got their whole armor, but if I recall correctly, it is kind of a bit more movable. If you fall over, you can get back up. Do you know why? Because it's not heavy metal. Safer? No. More applicable to the battlefield? Yes. Hence making it safer than someone who is essentially a tortoise. Have you ever seen a tortoise try to get off the back of its shell? No, because they sit there and die. There's no coming back after that. So in other words, a knight is just a tortoise waiting to meet its end by the big bad samurai. Anyway, I have no idea if that was even remotely that was just a whole lot of waffle. That was just what was on my mind in that exact moment. Clearly I'm a man of deep thought and intellect. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. And don't take anything I say for fact, because I'm no doctor, no genius, no scientist. I'm just some fella. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.